Beep, beep, and blah, 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 and good morning, everybody, and welcome to this thing that we like to call Northern News Now Plus on the Northern News Now Plus app. Hold on. There. Gotta at least have those fangs in for a couple of seconds. I know you couldn't hear me at all. Let's start all over. Good morning and beep beep and blah 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 everybody, and welcome to this thing that we like to call Movie Mondays with Matt Plus on the Northern News Now Plus app. I'm your host, whether you like it or not, Matt Rasmussen, aka morning show director, aka local filmmaker, aka King of Halloween, aka host of Movie Mondays with Matt. And this morning, my TV hit was based around Dracula, the new a remake of the 1931 version of Dracula, which is the updated 2026 version of Dracula, open in 2025 overseas, actually. And it is, it's doing all right in the box office. It wasn't in my top five grossing this weekend, unfortunately, but it made it there the other week. So we're going to get a little bit more into Dracula here in just a little bit. But first, let's look at the actual box office figures and what actually made headlines for the top grossing films this week. Let's take a quick peek at this. Joink. Beep, beep. All right, Send Help fell to 5th place in its 4th weekend, scratching out $4.5 million. Next, in 4th place, Crime 101 made off with another $5.8 million. Then, I Can Only Imagine 2 debuted in 3rd place, bringing in $8 million. Then, second to last, Wuthering Heights wobbled into 2nd place, falling from $14.2 million from 1st place. Then, lastly, Goat, starring a goat, came up big in its sophomore weekend, grossing $17 million. Awesome. The only one I really did see on this list was Send Help, which I enjoyed thoroughly. Let's go back to Cam. Joink. Send Help is the new Sam Raimi movie, and if you know Sam Raimi, he did the Evil Dead movies, and there's indeed a new Evil Dead movie coming out later this year, which we're definitely going to cover on this show. So, there's your box office numbers. Let's get a little bit into the flick of the week now. So, I chose Dracula for this week. I could have picked it a couple of weeks earlier. It's been out for a few weeks now, and it opened again overseas in 2025. In France, I believe, is where it premiered. The reason I chose it for this week is because, well, the last couple of weeks, there were some very specific titles I wanted to cover that were only showing for that week only. We had The Land Before Time, which I chose a couple weeks ago, which, I had to cover that. I don't know if that'll ever come back to theaters again. Who knows if I can ever do another episode on that one. So I had to cover The Land Before Time. And then last week I did Jurassic Park, because when in doubt, Jurassic Park it out. And that was only in theaters for that week as well. And just all the stars aligned, and my dinosaur expert friends were able to come in and talk about it with me. So, that was the thing to do versus just a Dracula episode. And this will be in box office for a while. It's doing okay. It needs to make a little more money before it breaks even and really bust the doors down. But it is, it's up for some awards right now, which is noteworthy. I guess costuming and music and some other things. The things I'd like to highlight are the direction of this one. I would say this is a mini masterpiece in my mind. I went to go see it opening weekend, and I was blown away by it. It's better than what I had expected, because when I first saw a trailer for it, I saw, this actor who plays the new Dracula, and, I was skeptical. Honestly, I was skeptical. I was like, that guy, I don't know, is he even going to be a good Dracula? Who knows? Boy, was I wrong. Say what you will about the human version of Dracula that he plays. When he plays the monster version of Dracula, he is chilling. He is horrifying. He absolutely, he sets the tone for a creature that is hundreds of years old. He really did it for me. He convincingly made me believe that he was hundreds of years old. And it's it's something you can compare with Gary Oldman's performance in the 1992 remake of Dracula. Yeah, I'm throwing it out there. Gary Oldman gave a powerhouse of a performance, as did this new Dracula. Mainly, the thing that was the most impressive is when he was the 400-year-old, crippled, shriveled up, like, could barely breathe Dracula. That was the scariest stuff presented in that movie. And that's the version I like the best. And then through flashbacks and then through other things, then he de-ages a bit after he chooses to not be old anymore. Then he's kind of what you see him in all the trailers. You don't really see clips of him in the trailers as that terrifying 400-year-old version of Dracula. But that's the thing to watch. That's what really set it apart in my mind and kind of told me that this is something special. So not only that, I mean, the score is great. Danny Elfman does some of the score, and that's kind of up for some awards potentially. Visually, it is a little bit of a masterpiece. There's kind of even song and dance number routines, which are a little over the top, but this movie should be a little bit over the top. It's an over the top premise. I love when somebody like this director is able to take a premise, like it's a guy who's 400 years old. Like, of course that's silly and over the top, and he's able to lean into it and deliver something that it's special. It's just special. The thing about it that's really special is how he comes at this material, because Dracula's been told in a million different ways and portrayed by a million different actors, and what makes this one stand out is that you're kind of sympathizing with this particular Dracula for the first time, but it's not too heavy. It's not like, he's the hero. There are moments where you love this new Dracula and you hate this new Dracula, because he is doing the dastardly things that you expect Dracula to be doing. He's killing people, he's draining blood. There's even a little bit of the impaling stuff going on. Like, that stuff is intact. They kind of gloss over it, but it's intact. And then they bring you the sensitive side of Dracula. And this is the part that I would say makes this movie appeal to a broader audience, is that he's not just this dastardly villain. He is a sympathetic character at times, and you can understand why he's doing what he's doing. Really his whole thing is he's been waiting 400 years to be reunited with the love of his life. He's been traveling every corner of this planet to try to be reunited with the love of his life. He's hoping that she'll be reincarnated is the thing, because she perishes and then he transforms into Dracula, and Dracula can't be killed. He's plagued with eternal life. So he just spends all of his days trying to find his lost love, and he does whatever he needs to be able to find her again. So yeah, that includes the dastardly things that Dracula does, and that's what sets it apart and makes it special. And then the direction, and it's a little silly and goofy at times, but it's fun and it's different, and it does lean into the humor a little bit. Some of it seems like it's unintentional, but I think it is intentional. I'll bet the director had a really good sense of humor with this one. And this movie's just great. I would highly suggest Dracula. I think this was a fitting retelling of this specific story that has been told millions and millions of times. And I'm going to wait till part 2 to get into all of the previous incarnations of Dracula. I'm going to try to rattle off as many of them as I can, just kind of off the top of my head, and we'll get into it. We're going to cover Bela Lugosi, and we're going to cover Christopher Lee, and just all the different Draculas that you see. let me talk a little bit about what we have here before we do go to break and all that good stuff. Costume-wise, I've had this Dracula costume for a while. It was a quick thing. I didn't have to buy any new pieces for it. I did have the slick back hair this morning on the TV hit. I brought in some hair product. I got it all over, and it just, within a couple of minutes, it just started running everywhere. It started getting everywhere, got all over my fingies, ran all down my face. It started getting into my IFB and my box and my mic a little bit, and everything was just getting all sticky, so I decided not to do the slick back hair for this long streaming version of this Dracula talk. Otherwise, yeah, I had the slick back hair like you see here. Otherwise, this was a very low-key costume to put together. I've had the pieces for a while. I brought this costume last to New Orleans in 2024. It was a whole like Dracula theme. We went to this Dracula party in New Orleans for Halloween. There's like the Anne Rice Forever Night Halloween parties, and there was some other Dracula-related party, and that was a fun thing to go to. That's where this all came from here. And I brought in a few props that were left over from my Northern Life hit last week. They showed it. I've got the wine. One of my favorite lines that Dracula says is, "I don't drink wine." They say it in a few different ways throughout the different remakes and things. And then, what else did I have? The roses were left over from there, and a lot of the Valentine's Day candy that was on that hit, I ate most of that already. And then I brought in, of course, you've got Dracula on DVD here, the Legacy DVD collection. So this is really important for many reasons, this Legacy DVD collection. This is the first time that they compiled all of the original Universal Monsters movies together into one set. And they released them by volumes. They had Dracula, Frankenstein, and all the big ones. And this was the first box set that had all of the movies together. And this was the first time I got to actually see all the sequels. And I got this for my dad, actually, for, I believe, for Christmas. And I was able to actually get him all of the Legacy sets because my dad's a huge Universal Monsters fan as well. So another reason I'm doing this episode in honor of you, Dad. So hope you enjoyed our hit this morning. So Dracula has all of the movies in it. It was some good core memories being able to watch all of these movies with my folks. Every single one. We watched every Dracula, every Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Wolfman, you name it. And I'm going to tease ahead a little bit and say I'm hoping to cover a few more of these Universal Monsters this year because there are some very related titles that are coming out, and I think, why not? I should try to hit all the Universal Monsters while I can. Who knows? Life's too short. Do what you can. So, this is the Dracula set. This is kind of co-owned between my dad and I, this set. So, that's from our personal collection. And then here's the Blu-ray version as well. And I upgraded and I got the Blu-ray set a few years ago when that came out. And that came in one big box set, actually, that had all the monsters together. So those are the two best collections to get if you're trying to get all the Universal Monsters movies. Anyway, let's keep looking at what else we have here. We have original toys. A lot of these are original 90s toys. I don't know if many of you grew up in the 90s like I did, where the Universal Monsters were kind of rampant. They were everywhere in the 90s. They were selling everything, Doritos, Pepsi, especially for spooky season. Those commercials were running constantly. There were contests and things like that. And I think part of that is because a lot of those films were being remade and put out in the 90s. You had the 1992 Dracula. You had the 1994 version of Frankenstein. You had Wolf with Jack Nicholson, which was low-key, kind of like a Wolfman remake. And then eventually you had The Mummy, those movies with Brendan Fraser. That first one came out in the 90s. And so yeah, the Universal monsters were just everywhere. So there was an awful lot of merch, and that's where I first discovered the monsters and like initially fell in love with them before I found out that like my folks liked them as well. So that's a fun little thing that we can share. And so I have coming down the line here. This is, I believe, the Taco Bell version of the Dracula monster that he comes out of his tomb like so. We have the Ninja Turtles version of the Universal Monsters. That's Donatello as Dracula. We have the real Ghostbusters version of Dracula from their Monsters line. Then we have a Happy Meal toy. This is one of the original, what were they called? Boo Buddies, Mick Boo Buddies. You'd swap them out, and you could swap out the different McNuggets, or McNugget Buddy, excuse me, it was the Boo Bucket. McNugget Buddies, you could swap out the McNuggets and change their costumes around, and this came in a line with Frankenstein and the Mummy and a few others. And then we have Hamburglar, who is also Loki's kind of Dracula, he's a bat, and that came out a couple years after this one. And then lastly, we have the, probably the most prized line of the Universal Monsters toys, the 1997 Burger King toys that came out. There was a line of 4 of those, and I hope to bring in most of them this year if I can. I brought in a few last year. Usually for spooky season, I bring them out and just kind of lay them out on the desk and stuff. And then lastly, we have this gigantic figure here. This is not Dracula himself. This is actually son of Dracula, as portrayed by Lon Chaney Jr. And he played Dracula in one of the many sequels that Universal put out back in the 30s and 40s. And when for some reason they didn't have Bela Lugosi, so they got probably the next best man for the job, Lon Chaney Jr., who really stepped into all of these Universal Monsters roles at the time. He did everything. Lon Chaney Jr. did Son of Dracula, he did the Frankenstein monster, he did the Mummy, and he did the Wolfman. He originated the Wolfman. So he's the only guy to have all that cred to his name. So there's the Happy Meals. I brought in the McChangeable Happy Meals because I've been trying to collect all of those. That is a throwback to the 80s and 90s as well. So good on you for doing that, McDonald's. Wow, this has been a long one. Okay, so I've been rambling for a bit. I'm going to throw it a break. And when we come back, I'm going to talk more about the extended Dracula franchise, if you will, and just kind of try to get through as many of these Dracula movies as I can with what time we have here. So, stay tuned, my friends, and we will talk more Dracula in just a minute.